Why does the US constantly need to raise the debt ceiling instead of focusing on spending less? Spending less is generally politically unpopular. And as the country and economy grow, it is expected that spending will need to grow as well to maintain economic output. Because Congress can't agree on what needs to be cut. And it's no surprise. To make a dent, the big areas of spending are defense and social assistance programs. There's very few people that think it's a good idea to cut all of those. Decreasing government spending is one of those things people like in the abstract but hate once you get into the details. If you ask people should the government spend less, they will say yes, but if you ask them should we decrease social security spending, reduce the military, cut VA benefits, etc., they say no. It's like me when I go on a diet. If you ask me if I should eat less calories, I'll say yes, but if you ask me to skip dessert after dinner, I'll say hell no. The US is one of only 2 countries with a debt ceiling, Denmark being the other. Denmark's debt ceiling is astronomically high and they never reach it. In comparison, the US's debt ceiling is stupidly low. So low that it has had to act 78 times in 63 years to raise it. That is a broken system. This is not about spending less. The debt ceiling is a way for Congress, usually Republicans, to hold Americans hostage for things like welfare, healthcare, etc. We don't need to spend less. We need to tax the rich more. The debt shot way up because we gave the ultra-wealthy huge tax breaks with no way to make up the capital. The only thing that really needs to be cut is defense spending. Because free stuff is expensive. Politicians on both ends only know one way to gain support: spend or give tax breaks. It is a general lack of creativity. The goal is to get re-elected and pass the mess on to the person who eventually replaces you. Governments don't want to spend less, lol. The debt ceiling has nothing to do with how much the US spends. That is determined by the budgeting process. The debt ceiling is about whether the debts accrued from money that was already spent will actually be paid. As an analogy, the budget process is what happens when you decide to buy or not buy something at the store with your credit card. The debt limit is about deciding whether or not to pay the credit card bill. Because spending less, in this context, would cripple the US. The debt is so high that you could cut the entire military budget and still not make it. Just to start chipping away at it, you would need to basically cut back half of all social services. Needless to say, it's political suicide to try doing that and would cause an economic collapse. It's widely accepted that spending levels couldn't really be reduced to a balanced budget without essentially killing off half the federal government's functions. Functions such as healthcare, social support, and defense are just too important to cut down on. Basically everyone agrees that the US government is too big, but no one agrees on what to cut. There's no exactly a lot of elevator operators or whale oilers to cut out of government. It costs money to find efficiencies and use technology to make improvements. And those improvements will take some time to realize. So even when there are possibilities for improvements to efficiencies to reduce spending, they really only care about the big-ticket ones. They don't need to raise it. Half the doomsday they say will happen doesn't actually happen. They want to raise the debt ceiling so they can spend more. The correct thing to do, the responsible thing to do, is fix the spending and raise debt ceiling as necessary. Raising should not be the default position. Fixing spending should be. The only reason it is a crisis is because they want to be able to spend more without restrictions. Spending less doesn't get votes. Simple as that. Because why do that when you can just keep printing money and pocketing it at the expense of the people you serve? It's unpopular to tell everyone that we've had it good for too long and need to pay the piper. Napoleon once said something about democracy's voting money out of the common treasury, and he might have been onto something. Unfortunately, the economy is now dependent on government spending. If you slashed the military budget, you would be laying off hundreds of thousands of people. Unemployment would soar, and all those people would not be spending their money into the economy. If you reduce spending on welfare, then the billions of dollars paid out, and the salaries of the government offices would reduce, further slowing the economy. Because of the politicians spending on special interests to buy votes from their communities. It's kinda like spending daddy's money. As long as it's not coming out of their pockets, who cares how much it costs? The debt ceiling is an arbitrary cap put in place without any real reason why, with the exception that it forces the government to occasionally look at spending. Raising it is a routine function of the legislature. Because the money was already spent. This isn't about new spending. It's about money spent years and decades ago. And it's being weaponized. It wasn't meant to be used as a political weapon to cut things you don't like. It was meant to be a reminder and a speed bump on spending, not a weapon. While it's a good idea in theory, the rap is argin if the debt ceiling is incredibly damaging. Most of this debt specifically came from the Trump years. So the GOP spent money. And now they are trying to use the default to either damage the US but improve their election odds, or as a weapon to get more of their demands through. Is awful.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.